So what was different about 5 small schools instead of 1 large school?
Well, I mean, the idea that the population of the school would probably be kept to about 450 to 500 students was something right there. We'd be able to work with a small number of students and the idea of the whole personalization. As I said, I was at Garfield for 25, 26 years. Maricela was at Roosevelt for many years as well. And we know the comprehensive high school model, and so the pilot school model was something that we both really embraced.
Can you say a little bit more about that personalization? Or, I mean, in Los Angeles, 450 people is almost unheard of to really have a school that size, a public school that size.
Public high school.
Yes, it's actually probably one of the best aspects of the job because we really do get to know the students at a different level than when you have thousands of students. And I know that for myself, like often I hear, wow, a principal's never known my name before. And it's about knowing the students, knowing their needs, knowing their families, and really like trying to really all work together for like the advancement of those students.
And you know, I just wanted to go back a step for a second because Maricela mentioned how we started with just the teachers kind of forming the school, and then when it came time to actually find an administrator, you know, we looked through many, and we found someone who was a collaborator, someone who had an incredible history of being a strong teacher, someone who had a history of working with students and making connections with kids, and that's the vision of our school. So on one hand, and I think administrators work really well at schools, but we were also looking for someone who really connected to the classroom. And we found an expert teacher and an expert administrator in that way.
Isn't that amazing? That's just, so you had not been an administrator before, right?
No, I went from being a history teacher at Roosevelt High School to being principal at Renaissance.
And so what was that learning curve like for you?
It was incredible. You know, when I started, I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? What have I done? But really, what I realized was that my strong instructional background was really an asset at this point, and it's still an asset because I feel like I have a very good understanding of instruction, and that's, you know, knowing that and just being a collaborator, I'm able to work with all the different stakeholders at our school, and, you know, we talk about instruction often.
Now, were you purposely looking for an LAUSD grad?
Yeah, we were looking for the best person out there. But you know, she also doesn't mention the fact that during the interview, and I remember her quite well, she said, "I don't know," on several occasions. And she mentioned some of her weaknesses on several occasions. And she walked out of the interview and saying, that's the person we want. We want someone who can be open and someone who can actually be human.
So it was very valuable that the teacher collaborative knew what they were looking for in their leader.
Absolutely.
And we have a leader who valued the teacher leaders. So, Maricela, you are an LAUSD grad.
Yes, I am. I'm a proud graduate of Garfield High School. You
know, I was going to say Garfield, but I just wanted to make sure. That's kind of an amazing renaissance for East LA to have a Garfield graduate come back and lead the school.
It's kind of like a dream come true in a lot of ways, you know, just like having a new school on the east side, and being able to be part of that is incredible for me, and for, I think, the students. What an opportunity.
I'm going to take you back a step because I don't know that folks watching at home completely understand the process. Usually you think the administrator's in charge, they select the teachers, and they set up the classrooms. You're talking about a system that's completely turned upside down. Can you elaborate more a little bit about how does that work? And going back to our topic today, how does that create an environment where, because you're talking like you're actually an educational leader at a school that was looking for an educator. How does that work, and how has it related to the outcomes that you've had at your school?
Well, go for it.
So I think that one of the things is that, you know, the teachers they designed the school, and they were looking for the administrator. And when I came on board, it was, you know, my job essentially to make sure that the vision and all of the goals that the teachers had set forth were being handled and were being, you know, respected. And what that's done is that I feel like, on the one hand, you know, there's the plan that everybody had, but I really feel that, you know, it's a natural fit for who I am as well. And I think that it just allows for a different, it's a different model because it's not about top-down decision-making at Renaissance. It's so small, you know, our staff is 20 people, that a lot of the decisions are very collaborative. So for example, you know, when we create a master schedule or everything, everybody's involved. It's not one rep, two reps. It's something that the entire group goes through together. And I really believe that that creates intensified accountability for individuals because everything that's happening are decisions that we all made together.
Intensified accountability, I'm going to have to quote you. How does that sound to you?
Intensified accountability, well, I think we all welcome it. I can speak for the teachers at the school, we welcome it. The classroom doors are open. And because we don't really see there are one administrator or even other leaders at the school as being judgmental. We're here to assist and help.
Isn't that amazing? So I heard you say you started with the knowing the community.
That's correct.
And the teacher leadership, creating that vision and those goals, and then being able to have the choice to staff your school as you did with your choosing your own principal.
That's correct. And just consider for a second, if I can interrupt you, how that is the birth of the culture. That's the school culture. The thing that we're always trying to kind of, you know, we have to maybe change the school culture sometimes when there's a problem at a school. Well, with a new school, in this case, a small new school, we were able to actually create that school culture. And it's instructionally oriented. And
that's amazing. On the decision making, are you able to adjust? When things don't work, is that something that is a benefit of the small school?
Definitely. When we're trying something and there's an incredible obstacle or something that maybe it could be done a different way, then there are not too many people to talk to. You just convene a group and say, look, this is what's happening, and it probably would behoove the entire school if we tried this.
And how do you know this works for kids? How do you know all of these elements together?
Well, that's a difficult question, right? It's a difficult question. But, you know, in the beginning, when we first opened, we had some problems. Kids were on a brand new campus for the first time. Teachers, they didn't know teachers, they were strangers. And so there was that kind of, the first few months were a little bit challenging. But by the end of the year, we spoke to so many students who were able to say themselves, you know, mister, I've changed. I'm better than I was in September, don't you think? And the answer was yes.
And I'm glad you brought up students because other pilots, they've elaborated on how making the students accountable, we bring back accountability for this being their school and them taking accountability for their own education has really empowered them and has really changed some of these kids as well. Have you found that, or is that something that's built into the plan at your school, bringing students into the leadership roles?
Yes, we have a leadership group of students, and we also, on our governing council, we have students as well. What's nice is that students, again, they can speak to any teacher or myself, Ms. Gonzalez, a counselor, at any point, and we're very accessible. But beyond that, we also are trying to, you know, Martin spoke of like creating a culture, and we spent a lot of time last year trying to do that, and that's continued work. But there are certain things that we've done that I think are good for like student accountability. So for example, last year when we were talking about having a motivational assembly for the students when they were about to take the CST exam, we thought, who better than the students themselves? And they created this really incredible video, and it's about, you know, Renaissance and the Renaissance students, and it's, you know, fiction, but it was a wonderful moment last year when everybody was in the assembly together. We watched the video, and the students left saying, you know what, we want to be proud of ourselves, we want to make our families, our communities proud, and, you know, Renaissance, you know, it matters. So I think that's been really wonderful.
That's how you know it's working for kids. And we know numbers aren't the whole story, but you all had very good numbers.
We had good numbers.
How does that work? How does the faculty interpret that, or what does that mean to you all?
Well, I think that, you know, it's a rare chance where teachers can actually sit back and kind of pat themselves on the back to some degree. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And to also, you know, to look at that and then also say, how do we move forward and actually grow, continually grow? And so it was a good thing to have a first year that was basically successful in many ways.
Yes, yes. We have to document those. And tell us a little bit about working with 4 other schools on that one campus. challenge, strength, areas of development?
Well, it's, there are certain things that we do share complex-wide, like sports and things like that. And I think, last week we actually had our first home football game, and Esteban Torres, the congressman, was there, and it was really nice. So that's positive, right? Some of the other things that are positive are that, we are able to connect our schools with, sports, and then there are some other school-wide dances and things like that. But the challenges are, just making sure that we coordinate so that when our students are going out to lunch, the other school's not coming out and things like that. But it's really exciting to be able to work with 4 other schools, because there is learning from all of the schools. We all can benefit from that. But it's also nice to have our autonomy and to be able to run a different program than other individuals. And it's also nice to have families on the east side having choices. It's a different model.
A student can select which one of the 5 schools to go to. Is that the way it works?
It's actually and also Garfield included in that.
Also the east side zone of choice between Garfield and the 5 schools. Wonderful, wonderful. I think it's great to hear about Esteban Torres still being connected, because he was so important in helping the school establish itself. And he talks about a narrative of another Garfield grad, right, who had aspirations. And it's wonderful to see La Plaza de Cultura y Arte has the videotape of him at the ribbon cutting at Torres High School. And it's about progress, and it's about how consistency, right? The families want their kids to get an education, just like Mr. Torres's family wanted him to be able to make it in the world, and he did. Wonderful. It is wonderful. What feedback do you hear from the students about this experience of opening a school?
Well, I hear a lot of things. I hear students saying, I kind of like this place. And as mentioned before, the teachers know me, and sometimes they feel like they don't like that because they're known by everyone. And but at the same time, they feel comfortable. They feel as though that they're welcome there. That's partly, I think that's the smallness really has a lot to do with it. And I think there's a lot of positive feedback from the students.
That's great.
Yeah. Choices,
leadership. I hope you continue to tell your story. Congratulations on the good work. Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Principal Ramirez. Thank you, Mr. Buckman. And thank you for joining us. If you want to learn more about reform efforts taking place in Los Angeles, or to contact me, visit www.lausd.net. As we continue to reform our schools in order to create the best educational opportunities for our students, it requires all of us to do our part. I'm Mónica Garcîa. Together we will reform education, achieve 100% graduation, and make the LAUSD the best district in the nation. Gracias.